Hello and welcome to Flaunt, create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. I'm Lora Cheadle, and today we're going to tackle a really, really important topic. Today we are going to talk about choosing yourself, investing in yourself, taking proactive steps that will actually move you forward. My guest today is Tracy Coenen, and she is a nationally recognized CPA and forensic accountant. She focuses on finding hidden money in divorce cases and teaches women how to understand their finances so they can get better divorce settlements. She has been featured all over. She and I have worked together a couple of different times. I was on her podcast, and she is just brilliant. And I am so excited to have this conversation with her today. So, welcome, Tracy. I'm really glad you're here.
Well, you're so sweet. Thank you for saying such nice things about me. And I'm excited for us to talk again because we always have a good conversation. And there is so much to be said about empowering women, especially as it relates to their finances, which is my area of expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background. Tracy and I were talking earlier, and she was sharing, she has this great divorce money guide. She can help women get a better settlement. She can help them understand their finances. And she said, it's really frustrating sometimes because I offer my services. I know my services help. I know it will benefit women. And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to spend the money. I'll just do it myself. And I jumped in and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a lawyer. I know how much your legal bills cost. I know if you work with me, I can help you save money on your legal bills. I can help you save money on costs of therapy. I can help you get clearer quicker so you can make decisions. And I said, same thing. I will talk to women and they're like, yeah, no, I got to save the money for my kids, or I got to save the money for this. And we just had a conversation. Why is it? Why is it that specifically women don't want to invest in themselves, whether it's time or money? So that's the
That's
frame.
right. That's the thing, Laura. I know how expensive divorce is. I know most women, I bet 90% of women or more feel incredible financial pressure as they're going through the process of divorce because not only is it expensive to go through the process and pay for an attorney and maybe you're paying for a parenting coordinator and a therapist, there are all sorts of things to pay for. So I get it. Money is tight. You're scared about what kind of settlement you're going to get coming out of the divorce. Are you going to have enough money to pay your rent or mortgage and to put food on the table for the kids when you're maybe restarting a career, when you're going from a two-income household to a one-income household? There are tons of unknowns. So I get it. But the products that I offer for women in divorce, they run anywhere from $50 to $900. And I will tell you what, women are getting thousands of dollars more in their divorce settlements because of the work that we walk through, because they need this financial knowledge before they make these settlements. They're entering into agreements without even knowing how much money is really in our accounts. Do we have other accounts? There's so many risks. And it is a little befuddling to me that when it comes to spending an extra 50, a couple hundred, even on the high end with me, $900, why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to say, because I have this similar situation. You can work with me for $97, or you can work with me for $2,900 and everything in between. And I also want to make it clear that it's not just about money. So often women will say, like, I just don't have the time. I'm taking care of my kids. I have to go back to school and re-educate myself. I have to figure this out. And I also want to say, yes, and who is the most important person in this scenario? It is you. At the end of the day, you are living with yourself, even just taking an hour to read through a document
Right.
or spending 15 minutes a day to read your emails or something like that. We can glean so much knowledge that will not make us, that will help us be able to put ourselves in a better position.
Sure, I understand the time crunch as well. Women take on a disproportionate amount of the work when it comes to the children, especially when getting divorced. And so I know time is really, really tight. So when I was putting together the divorce money guide and all of these short videos that walk you through exactly what the financial part of the divorce is, what documents do you need, how do you get them, and what do you look for once you have them? I said, gosh, someone's going to look at this and say, I don't have the time. So we put together a plan that said, can you put in 1 to 2 hours a week in looking at this stuff, in learning what you need to do? If you could do that for 4 to 6 weeks, you'd be through it all in just an hour or two a week. So when your kids are gone for the weekend, take a Saturday morning and take 2 hours with your cup of coffee, watch a few videos, gather some documents. It's about, I get it that we're busy, but really it's also about priorities, and you need to be a priority for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's really the key right there. We don't prioritize ourselves. And I believe, and I'm curious what you think, but I believe our culture really has brainwashed a lot of women into thinking that we need to be in that place of service. We serve our families, we serve our children, we serve our communities, we serve at work. Even strong, powerful women, there's kind of that belief that our role is to be of service. And there's nothing worse than a selfish woman. There's nothing worse than a self-centered woman. And I feel like self-ish is actually really important because if nobody takes care of me, nobody will take care of me. And then I can't be there to serve. Serving my family is important. Serving my community is important. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that too.
I am with you on that. It is service and sacrifice of self that our culture has ingrained into women. When you look at the amount of free time that husbands have versus wives, there is a disparity there. Um, it's really interesting when the husband, the dad, goes golfing on a Saturday morning on the weekends. Everyone kind of applauds that, like, oh, great, he's getting out, getting some time for himself. He probably had a really long week. If mom does the same kind of thing and has an activity that takes her away for half a day, that she's, quote, leaving the kids behind, there's a lot of negative judgment that goes along with that. And so we have set these odd standards that, I get it. We evolve as a culture over time. But those standards need to change. Women need to feel like it's okay to take care of themselves. And yes, being of service to your family is noble, it is good, it is beneficial to your kids and to your spouse. But when you are completely sacrificing yourself in order to do that, you are going to burn out, and then you're not going to be as good for them anyway.
Exactly, exactly. One of the things that I do when I work with women is I do a lot of work around identity because as a wife, as a mom, we lose our identity. And then when infidelity comes up, betrayal comes up, we start looking at a divorce and questioning it. Most women say, I don't even know who I am. I don't know who I am. I am his wife. I am their mom. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want. And it's really important to get your identity back. And to your point, because I lost my identity too, I really did. I totally lost myself. I gave up too much along the way. And as I have gone through those steps of reclaiming my identity and coming back home to myself, I am a more rich, full person for my kids, for my partner, and for myself. So, yeah, you're right. We have to keep leaning in and taking care of ourselves, whether it's time or money, or I'm a big proponent of both.
Divorce is a terrible process that I wish upon no one, but it's a reality for lots and lots of us, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And the thing is that, some people say you can get bitter or you can get better. And I love the better. It is a time where you can rediscover who you are and what you like. And what you like now might not be the same things you liked before you got married, but take the opportunity to say, I want to know, what's important to me, what I like, and develop who I am as a person, separate and apart from who I am as a mom. I mean, so many women who are getting divorced, their number one identity is mom and wife. And
Yes.
unfortunately, when you're going through divorce, that vision of yourself necessarily must change, because whatever dreams, hopes you had for the future, all that's going to be different now.
Yeah. And that's okay. And it's scary. I want to validate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very scary. But that's why sometimes I don't think people understand the difference between like therapy and coaching. Therapy, you can dig and you can work into some of your deep, dark childhood issues. You can really go deep. You can look into the past. You can figure out things like, depression, clinical depression, anxiety, ADHD, some of those things. Coaching is about finding the tools that will get you over the hump in the moment. So, what you talked about, okay, I'm getting divorced. I thought I was going to be a wife and mom. I thought we were going to grow old together. And now suddenly I'm launched into something different. And it's creating a huge sense of stress and anxiety. And I'm moving into fight, flight, or freeze. One moment, I'm looking at the college catalog, trying to recreate a new career and figuring out what education I need. Another moment, I'm laying in bed, crying my eyes out, thinking, what can I do to make everything go back to the way it was? Coaching is about giving you those tools to manage that. How can I bring myself back into a regulated state so I can both grieve properly and lean into the future?
I've always thought of therapy as being very history and past focused, and coaching being very future focused. And
Absolutely.
that's what I love about coaching is it is this opportunity to build things for yourself, look towards the future, figure out strategies for I do need to cope today, but there's an awful lot of goal setting and working towards something better when you're working with a coach, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Okay, now that we've kind of got this venting and all of this out of our systems and hopefully riled some listeners up like, yes, I'm going to claim me. Yes, I'm going to take care of myself. Yes, 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 yes. Let's walk through a little bit of the process of some of the things that you do and that you offer. And what I'd like to do is talk about the emotions that maybe come up when that happens. And then I can hop in with some of those tools to help manage those emotions.
Well, let's start out by saying that I've been a forensic accountant for 25 years. So the main thing that I offer is fraud investigation
Yes.
services. So that's my main gig. So I work with attorneys on behalf of their clients. A lot of that is corporate stuff where executives are stealing or companies are engaged in money shenanigans. Some of that is in the divorce space, often for people who have lots of money and really complicated financial situations. And then, there's stuff, with families fighting over money and things like that. So that's all of the fraud investigation work that I do.
Mhm.
Then I have the divorce money guide, which is, the divorce money guide itself is a big course, and we have smaller courses if people just want to focus on one area of the financial stuff in their divorces. So that is an opportunity at a much, much, much lower cost to get some guidance from me as you're going through the divorce process. And then I have free stuff for people who are just not in a position to get anything like that. I do have my podcast.
Mhm.
I have my Love and Money Summit that happens on a yearly basis that people can attend for free. And so I've got things like that that are available to people, because even if you can't afford to buy something from me, I still want to be a resource for women, um, primarily those who are going through divorce. But when other life transitions are happening, my resources are great to help with the money as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start with a very broad base here. I think, okay, I feel some shame admitting this. And I just want to say this because I think other women are in the same position. I'm a smart, educated woman. I have made money. I was an attorney for 10 years. I processed, money for other people. When it came to our finances at home, I kind of dropped the ball. I wasn't involved in our investments. I wasn't involved in how much life insurance that we have. I just slowly started letting my husband do that. And then it kind of came to the position where I didn't even know what I didn't know because I had been busy. I was working, I was raising a family, I was taking care of things. Things were flowing. I figured he's got it. So from a very broad lens, what are the things that we need to know? What does it even mean to say no about your money? Is that just looking at your bank account and
Mhm.
saying, "Yep, we can make the bills," or "Nope, we can't"?
Okay, let's start and address the shame though, because the
Yes.
position that you were in is the position that most married women are in. Yes, there are lots of women who handle the money for their households. There are lots of women who know what's going on with the money for their households, but there is a larger percentage that doesn't know and isn't involved. So the first thing, knowing your money. Wait, so I was saying, don't be ashamed because there are lots of other women like you. I
Exactly.
wanted I
Exactly.
wanted to make sure that we put that out there that it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, it's not. And you're right. There's so many, most of the women that I work with will say the same thing.
Right. And you trust your spouse. You are right to trust your spouse. That's part of marriage. Okay. So knowing your money is where it's all at. I want people to have the facts. So I want you to know how much money you have, where it is, and what your money is being spent on. And the
Yes.
most basic way that you get that information is by having account statements. So you know that you have a checking account. Seeing those account statements tells you how much money you have. Glancing down that list of transactions will show you what your money is being spent on. You probably don't know if there are other accounts. Is there an investment account out there? Hopefully your husband's going to be forthcoming with you about that when you say, you know what, I want to understand. I want to know where we have accounts. If something ever happened to you, it would be important for me to be able to know where things are. But if your husband isn't forthcoming with you, what are you going to do? Well, that checking account that you know about, let's look at all those transactions and see if there's a transfer to another bank account, a different bank, an investment house, something like that.
Yeah. And that's huge, especially in the infidelity space. When men are cheating and they don't want to get caught, they'll open a different account. They'll have a different credit card. There'll be something because they don't want their
Right.
actions to be traced. And then women get confused and then fearful. What else is going on? Where is this money coming from? Where is it going?
But here's what I will tell you as a fraud investigator: most of those guys who open those secret accounts mess up in a
Yes.
way that we can find them because they'll open a secret bank account, but they have to get money into it somehow. So they'll make a transfer from our joint checking account. They know that you haven't been looking at the account statements, so they don't have any fear in doing that. They think that transfer will never be seen by you. They might open a secret credit card and they might pay it out of your joint checking account. So I like to show women how to find those things. It's super easy to find. These guys rarely cover their tracks. And so be assured if some of that stuff is happening, you have a really great chance of finding it.
Yeah, yeah. Or even in my case, my husband would just do cash withdrawals and he would do a series of really high cash withdrawals. And I would ask, what's going on with this? And of course, he always had an excuse. But at some point, when you're saying somebody's taking out $500 a week, this isn't making sense.
Right. Right. And they'll sometimes say, oh, I use that money to put gas in the car or to pay for my lunch every day. And then you go look at the credit card statement or the debit card transactions and you see they were filling up the gas. They were paying for lunch with that. So whatever they said about the cash wasn't true.
Yeah, exactly. And that feels scary and that feels threatening, but you're right. It's not that hard once you start looking at it.
Right. Here's the thing, though. So women are feeling intimidated by it. If you've been out of the financial stuff in your family, the thought of trying to figure out what's what documents do I need, doing the whole thing, it feels really, really, really overwhelming.
Hmm.
And I totally get that. I mean, I've worked with hundreds, thousands of women doing this kind of thing. And so, what I would say to that is first, just get the documents that you have easy access to. You know, there's a checking account, your name is on them. Let's just get those documents. Don't think beyond that about what am I going to look for or how am I going to dig into them. Let's just start with baby steps of
Yeah.
get some account statements. And I will tell you from experience working with women, having those account statements in hand is really empowering. Even if you don't yet know what to look for or what you're going to do with them, just having them and knowing I can have this information is really empowering.
Yeah, it really is. And even backing that up one step, if you're like, I don't even know, you can go to the bank and you can get help. If your name is on an account and you've never done a login online, they can help you get set up.
Yes.
People are there to help us. And I cannot emphasize that enough. We get in that thought pattern of, I don't know, there's nobody to help, there's nobody to help. There's a lot of people that are out there to help.
There are a lot of people out there to help. And there are people like me where I've taken like this basic process. One of the things that we do to start with is start making a list of the accounts that you know about or anything that you know about. Maybe you don't even know what specific accounts you have, but you know, we bank at Chase. I know that we have an account there. I don't know anything about the account number. I'm not sure if my name's on it or not, but I know that we do business there. Then you put Chase down on the list and you have a credit card in your wallet. We'll put down, where that credit card is from. We just start listing out the information you have, no matter how little it is. And we start kind of jogging our memories about things that you've talked about. I know last year I signed some papers at the lawyer's office and I didn't read them and it wasn't explained well, really, what I was signing. Not sure about that, but I signed something. Great, let's put that on the list that something was signed at the lawyer's office. Can you remember about what month it was last year? Well, it was summer of last year. Great, let's put that down.
Yeah.
And what I find is that women, when they're going through things like this and kind of keeping this running list, and then they sleep on it a little bit, and the next morning they'll wake up and say, oh, I thought of something. There was another time where I signed an application for a loan. And
Hmm.
we just keep adding to this list. And so there are people like me who will start walking you through some of these easy steps that you can start taking. And you will be surprised at how much you know that you didn't
Yes.
realize you knew.
Yes, 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 yes. I can appreciate that. And on my side, when I'm coaching women, when I'm working with them, and they're going through this process, what I see in them is such a feeling of empowerment. They go
Yes.
from being afraid to being like, I found this and I figured it out. And even if it's like bad financial news, they can be excited about it. I found out we've got this. Good. You are empowered. Until you know what it is, you can't fix it. And I
Right.
also want to, yeah, jump in. When you're doing this, it's not like you have to sit down and do it in an 8 hour chunk. One of the
No.
things I teach a lot is tools to re-regulate and calm your nervous system. Okay, let's do some tapping. Let's do some breath work. Let's turn on one song and do one dance break. Even if you're not engaged in it, and you're like, I hate doing a dance break, but Laura said do a dance break. I guarantee you're going to feel better at the end of that song. And then you can go back with that fresh mind and that clarity, like you said, oh, I remembered something else.
Right. I love the idea of doing something like set a timer for 30 minutes and put your head down and follow the steps for 30 minutes. And when that timer goes off, you are free to get up and be done for the day. Now, what I find is the women I work with often by that 30-minute point, they've made some progress in what they're doing. They're feeling so accomplished. They're like, I could do another 15 minutes of this. And they keep
Yes.
going a little bit. Um, the most important thing to me is that you get started, right? You start taking an action because that's where I see the biggest stumbling block is this feeling of being paralyzed. I'm afraid of what I might find. It feels
Yes.
overwhelming that there's a lot of work to do. I don't really know where to start. But if you can get some help, someone who can show you where to start, and then you start taking those small actions and you start to feel accomplished, your confidence is going to build. And even if you can't imagine right now how that would be that you'd feel confident, just trust me that I've been through this so many times and it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, two things that I want to say around that. Um, I'm trying to decide which order I should do it in. I'm like, which way do I want to talk about this? Number one, as an attorney, what I want to say is you get one shot at a divorce settlement. One
Yes.
shot. You can't go back in 3 years when you finally figured out you have time and redo it. You get one shot. I like how you talk about just start, just move forward. You are in more control of the divorce timeline than you think. Yes, there's a court calendar, but yes, if you need some extra time, usually you can get some extra time because it's really important to get it right. So, working with your attorney, if you're like, I'm still in the process, financials are not coming together, the court is not going to force you to get divorced. Ask for what you want, advocate for yourself and for what you need because you can't go back and unring that bell. You've got one chance to get it right.
I say it all the time on my social media, on my website. You have one shot, just like you said, to get this right. And it is about having the right information. And if you are standing in front of a judge saying, I just found out that there's another bank account that my husband never told me about, and I feel it's important that I would be able to see the account statements for this and know what was going in and out of the account. I don't know of any judge that is going to tell you, no, you may not do that. Now, I'll say in the rare case where there have been some weird shenanigans on the part of both spouses and things have been dragged out and games have been played by everyone, yeah, maybe a judge is going to say, okay, enough
We're
is
just done.
enough.
Yeah.
But we're talking a normal divorce where you have acted properly, you have been engaged in the process, you've been trying to move it forward. A judge is especially going to look at your efforts there and say, hey, she's been diligent about trying to get the information, understand it all. It doesn't hurt the judge if you're given some extra time.
No, absolutely. And also, and I know all states are different, and I also know different countries, people from other countries other than the US listen to this podcast. So I know it is different in different jurisdictions. But in most cases, if there is significant fraud discovered after the fact, you can have that put in your divorce decree too. In the event that an additional account is found, something is found, then your partner will get damages. What I mean by that, because that probably sound like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I just worked with a client. They got divorced. 10 years later, when he passed away, they found out that he had some life insurance policies that had not been disclosed in the settlement, and his ex-wife was not the beneficiary on those policies. Now, we're talking 10 years later, we're talking death. However, she was able to go back to court and prove these had been hidden, these were not disclosed, and she did get a portion of the proceeds of those life insurance policies. So that's another thing to think about. If you truly are concerned and you're trying, you can always put that in your divorce decree too. In the event that something was hidden, we're going to reopen something. But you know what? Just do it now. Just do
Yeah.
it now.
Do your homework now. Don't count on finding something later. Some people count on maybe reopening a divorce case. I hate it when
I,
divorce attorneys say, let's just sign off now. We can always go back to court later if we need to. No, it is
you know what?
so hard to reopen something. It is so expensive. Do your homework now and get as much information as possible so you're making the best informed settlement that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this case, this example, it's now been in probate for 2 years, and the probate estate can't settle, and it's a mess. And quite honestly, my client is spending more in attorney's fees than she's probably going to get at the end of the day anyway.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's not a pretty position. Now, the second thing, I said there were two things. The second thing I do want to take a deep dive into is some of the forensic accounting. A lot of my clients do have significant amounts of money and own businesses, sometimes joint businesses, sometimes they each own their own, sometimes accounts get mixed up. Can you talk a little bit about what is forensic accounting? What can be done with that? What should be done with that? How does that work?
Forensic accounting is investigating the numbers. It is very heavily based in documents. So I need account statements. I need accounting records from a business and things like that. Sometimes people think that somehow, as a forensic accountant, I'm magically going to be able to go out in the universe and wave a magic wand and figure out if there's an account here or there. It doesn't work like that. What I find is very much based in the documents that we have. Yes, I find hidden accounts, but it's because I'm working with account statements for the accounts we know about and things like that. So I spend a lot of time looking at bank statements, credit card statements, investment account statements. I am tracing money through those statements, figuring out where it bounced around. So for the cases that I work on personally, there's often 10, 20 bank accounts and investment accounts, and I'm watching money bounce from one account to another, to another, to another. And we're trying to figure out at the end of the day, okay, what of all of the accounts we have, what money came in and where did it come from? And what money went out and where did it go to? And is there any money that we can't account for that might have kind of leaked out of the system into a secret account? Or is there money that went out for inappropriate things like gambling, drugs, affairs, things like that?
Hmm. It's a serious thing. It's not just, oh, I'm really mad at my husband and I'm going to put this forensic accountant on them and they're going to figure it out. This is serious. Can you let listeners know approximately? And I know cost is hard to invest or assess because it depends. But what might they be looking at financially if they feel like they need a forensic accountant?
So for me, the cases that I work on are often between $25,000 and $50,000 in fees. It can easily go up from there if you have a really complicated situation. You can find forensic accountants who will say, I can get started for $5,000 or I can get started for $10,000. That's probably not what it's going to cost you by the time you're done with them. And so you need to get more clarity on what that cost is going to be. But 25 to $50,000 is a good range to think about. What I do for my clients though is when I'm getting started on a project, it is not a wild goose chase. It's not one of these, I'm just suspicious of everything. So let's do a big project. It's really based on what information do you have today that suggests there is something going wrong, that there might be something hidden. So in most cases, there will be something that someone found. Well, I found a bank account that he had never told me about. And if there's that, I'm worried that there's more. Or there are these five suspicious things that have happened with our money that he has no explanation for. So I'm looking for some sort of concrete information or evidence that suggests something is going wrong so that I can help you make a decision. Does this make sense to spend a bunch of money to investigate? We can also start an investigation that is a little bit controlled.
Hmm.
So do something with a limited scope. Okay, first we're going to look at these three accounts, and here's what we're looking for. And based on what we find there, we'll make a decision later if we're going to do further investigation and expand what we're doing.
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. So for the women out there who are thinking, but I kind of want a wild goose chase. I kind of just want somebody to look at this and tell me if something is suspicious. What would you say to them?
There are times where it makes sense if you need that to get your peace of mind. Peace
Hmm.
of mind does have a price. If you have the money to spend, if this is affordable to you, and you say to me, I will not be able to sleep at night unless I know I've done everything I can to make sure that things are on the up and up, that I know about all the numbers. If that's your situation, I will most likely take that case on and say, okay, we're all on the same page. We don't know what we'll find, if anything, but this is something that you can afford and that makes sense for your financial situation. And the peace of mind to you is worth it to spend the money. So it can be done.
I like that you said peace of mind because it's important to know what we're after. And if you're after
Yes.
peace of mind, that's wonderful. If you're after getting money back, that's a different story. And speaking of getting money back, I'd like you to give a realistic picture to the listeners. You go through this, you find all this stuff, you find all this money that's been spent, you find things that are maybe in the, the soon to be ex-husband's name, it's not in your name. What can people realistically expect? It's not like you come in and say, you bad, naughty boy, you give her that money back. Or, we need to talk to that affair partner. She now owes you $20,000. Talk about the realities of that.
Well, the reality is, if money was gambled away, spent on drugs, spent on an affair partner, you're not getting it back. If money was put in an account overseas, you're going to have a really hard time getting it back, right? People put money overseas for a reason. It's very hard to go through their court system to get it back. But here's how we do, quote, get money back. When you have assets that you are dividing, there is a house and there's equity in that house. There's a value there where typically we might be looking at a case saying, okay, that value needs to be split 50-50. Well, if we find evidence that your husband wasted $100,000 on an affair partner, we
Mhm.
can ask the judge to award you more of the equity in the house or more of the retirement account or more of the investment accounts. So, what we'll do is we'll try to get that money back in dividing the assets.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that because it's about justice and it's about how we can create justice. And the reality is, some judges care more about justice than others. I,
Yes.
and I hate to say that, but it is true. Some judges are like, no, this is a 50-50 state, 50-50 it is. But many states are what's called equitable distribution. What is fair? And in a case like that, if somebody has wasted $100,000, squandered those assets, what is fair is giving you more assets or giving you more of the retirement account.
Well, I will say, even in those states where they are very strictly 50-50 about things, if you can come forth with credible evidence that is put together well to show, Judge, I know 50-50 is the starting point, but there is this $100,000 of our family's money that was wasted. I would like credit back for my part of that. They will listen to that, they will consider that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that again goes back to the advocacy. You have to be aware that it's there. You need to have the knowledge, and then you need to be able to advocate clearly and effectively on your own behalf or to your attorneys. That's another assumption. When I work with women, I do a lot of legal consulting. I no longer represent clients, but I will legal consult. And it blows my mind. So often women will say, well, my attorney should know that. Well, I'm sure my attorney will figure that out for me. Your attorney has what, 15, 20 other cases actively going on in this moment. It's not that they don't love you. It's not that they don't want a good settlement for you. They don't know what you don't tell them. And then sometimes they don't even know what you want or what you expect for that. And that's one of those things in those legal consultings where I will help women get very clear. This is what's going on. You need to communicate this to your attorney. Here is how you need to do that in terms that the attorney will understand that this is relevant and applicable to this situation right here, right now. Go.
In most divorce cases, you're going to be required to turn over bank statements. And many women think when they hand those bank statements to their attorney, that their attorney is going through them and looking for things that are amiss.
Nope.
Number one, you don't want your attorney looking for that. That is, your attorney is an expert on the law, not on numbers. But
Hmm.
number two, no, almost none of them look for that kind of stuff. When they are collecting those bank statements from you, it is because they are collecting them in order to turn them over to the other side and to meet an obligation that they have in the case. They are not going to look for hidden money or other shenanigans for you. You have to be the one to take the lead on that and say, I need to look into these numbers, or I need to have someone look into them on my behalf.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that because as an attorney, I did divorce law for a while, but one of those things, it would be very frustrating because clients would act like I was their mental health professional. They would act like I was their financial planner. They would act like I should know these things. I went to law school because I don't do numbers. Let me just tell you that right off the bat. You're right. I collected things because I was supposed to. At that time, I wasn't educated in the mental health field. I can't counsel you. I can't give you advice. I will file your case and I will advocate for what you tell me to advocate for. And that's why having a team is so important. And that goes right back to the beginning of the show. Investing in ourselves, investing money, time, building a team. You need a team. You don't just need a lawyer. You don't just need a coach. You just don't need a CPA. You need all of them. You need them all.
You need them all Most people who are getting divorced rely on their attorney for everything because that's how traditionally divorce cases were thought of. It was like you hired a lawyer, you let them go to town with things, and you were going to get your divorce over with. And it's just not the way. Like I tell people that think of your lawyer as an expert on how the law in your state works
Hmm.
and the process of going through court, right? The process of we need to file this motion, we need to ask the judge for this, then we're going to have this kind of hearing. That's what your lawyer is there for. But there's so many other things that happen in a divorce that is not part of your lawyer's area of expertise. Your lawyer is not an expert on parenting plans. Now, I'll tell you, your lawyer probably has seen a lot of parenting plans, but that doesn't mean that they're an expert on, hey, what are some great ways to craft a parenting plan to protect me in case my ex does this, this, or this?
Hmm. Or the needs of the children. If you have any kind of children, I'm guessing they have got some kind of special needs, whether it's ADHD, whether it's you're on the spectrum somewhere, whether it's a physical, emotional. All kids have different needs. I have two kids, they have wildly different needs. A parenting plan does not take those needs into consideration. A parenting plan looks at the statutory, guidelines of, hey, 3 days on, 2 days, like it doesn't take the needs of your family into consideration. That's why parent advocates, guardian ad litems, all of these other professionals can come in and say, you know what, in your case, your child needs this. Look at their age, look at their neurodiversities, look at all of these different things. And again, going back to kind of where we started. Okay, so somebody hires you on the divorce money guide and things like that, and they spend almost $1,000. Or they hire you and you do some big forensic accounting. They hire me. Maybe they've put in 5 grand between the two of us. What are you going to get back for your 5 grand? Let's look at that return on investment. Emotionally, you're going to go through this process and you're going to feel better. You're going to feel confident. Like you talked about that peace of mind. You are not going to be second guessing yourself. You're not going to be 3 years after the divorce saying, oh my God, did I do this right? Was this a mistake? What if, what if, what if, what if? You're also going to save in attorney's fees. How much are you going to save in attorney's fees if you can give your attorney a packet? Here are the financial statements. They've been analyzed. Here's what's going on. Here's what's going on. I mean, you will save. So you invest 5 grand in working with you and me at the same time. You're probably going to save 10 grand at the end of the day through a divorce. And what is your peace of mind worth?
I know it's hard to think about let's spend money to save money,
I
but in
know.
this legal landscape, it's so true. Think about your attorney and those hourly rates. And every time you place a phone call or send an email, you are being charged. That adds up so quickly. I work with so many women who say, gosh, I put down a $5,000 retainer. I put down a $10,000 retainer and it was gone in a month or two. And I had no idea. I thought that was going to take me almost through the end of my divorce. So it's expensive to work with attorneys. And so every time you are hitting up your attorney for something that's not their area of expertise, all you're doing is flushing money down the toilet.
Yes.
So, yes, we are talking about spending money, but it's about spending it more wisely and in a more efficient way that gets you better information and better results, and then saves you money with the attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to foot stomp the attorney thing. When I was practicing, people would call, they would ask me these questions that weren't in my area of expertise. So I'm billing you for the 15-minute phone call. Then what I do is I go to the other people in my firm. Hey, my client asked this. What do you think about this? What's going on with that? Me asking other people in my firm is not free. I am now billing you for my time saying, hey, Tracy, can you help me out with this? My client just asked about forensic accounting and I don't know what that is. You're telling, I'm billing my client. So your 15-minute phone call is not a 15-minute phone call. It turns into 30 more minutes of me consulting with other experts trying to get you your answer. Where if you would have just invested with Tracy, invested with me, is it a cost? Of course it's a cost, but it's our area of expertise. It's somebody else's area of expertise. So when you said efficiency, I was like, hallelujah.
Yes.
Hallelujah. It is efficient.
Absolutely. And when I'm working with clients, I aim to be efficient with the time, but to show them here's what you're going to get at the end of the day when we're done with this, right? I have the knowledge and resources to know, hey, if you have this issue, we do A, B, and C. If you have a different issue, we do D, E, and F. I'm not having to go research what the heck do we do? Who do I ask? Been there, done that. I can just do exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah. To wrap this up, there are a couple of things that I wanted to say. First and foremost, listeners, I don't want you to feel listening to this show like, oh my God, Tracy and Laura were just like, spend all the money, hire all the people. To me, it's not about that. It's about centering yourself. What do I need? I'm worth it. This may feel tangential, but it's not. There is a study out there that shows, and I'm probably getting the numbers a little bit off, but women will only apply for a job if they meet like 95, 98% of the criteria. Whereas men will apply for a job if they meet like 45 to 50% of the criteria.
Wow.
Yeah. And I go back to that a lot because it just shows men will take the chance. They will get the help. They will put themselves out there. And yes, I'm being stereotypical here, but I know myself. I always think I can do it myself. I can be resourceful. Oh, I don't quite qualify. Oh, I need to learn more. Oh, I need to do this. And I'm always trying to bootstrap myself. I can build it myself. I can do it myself. I can be the little house on the prairie woman and I can just do all of my own things. It's a little martyry. It's a little self-sacrificial. And I want to ask you, as a listener, are you that way? Do you get the help that you need? Or do you always think, oh, I don't need that. Oh, I don't need that. I can do it. I can make do. I can make do. And if you're like I used to be, check yourself. Is it valid that yes, I can make do? Or are you subtly diminishing yourself? Are you subtly not stepping in and owning your worth? What's that all about? And I really ask you to think about that, whether it's getting financial help, whether it's getting coaching or legal help, or even whether it's hiring a house cleaner. There's small things. Are you choosing yourself or are you sacrificing yourself?
I think as it relates to divorce, it's important to know that there are options. Yes, we are talking today about spending money to get a better settlement in your divorce. We know that it's expensive, but here's the deal, you don't have to spend all the money. Just explore your options, see what's out there, what's available to you, talk with different professionals, look for people who come well recommended, who appear honest and forthcoming. When you work with someone like me, I will say, here's what I'm seeing in your case. Here are some options about what you could do, and there's going to be a different cost to each of those. As a professional, this is what I would recommend because it's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. I am all about telling my clients and potential clients, no, you don't need to do the great big project. We could do a smaller project and really make some gains for you in your case there. And then we could always decide to do more. But I'm the kind of person who will be honest and look out for your interest and spend your money as if it was my own, right? If this was my case, what would I do? And what's interesting is there are forensic accountants out there who will not recommend to a client which project to do, the small, medium, or large project. And they won't do that because they say, well, if I make a recommendation and then the case doesn't turn out well, maybe I'm on the hook for something. And I say, listen, a lot of these folks have never been involved in a court case before.
No.
They've never worked with a forensic accountant. They don't know how to make a decision on this. So I want to put myself in the place of if this was my money that was being spent and that was my divorce, what would I want done? What would be the best recommendation that I would have for someone like me?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And like you said, for peace of mind, sometimes we spend money and we don't get dollar for dollar money back. But what we do buy is our own sanity. What we buy is enjoyment along the way. What we buy is present moment connected time with our kids. Sometimes money doesn't buy physical things, it buys that emotional experience. And I can't say enough about that because really we only have one life. So, where can listeners learn more about you, have access to the Divorce Money Guide? Where can they work with you more?
They can find me at divorcemoneyguide.com. You can find me on the socials, also Divorce Money Guide. I'm super easy to find. And that's the place to start where we have a lot of those do it yourself type of resources. If you want to start gathering information, if you have a situation that goes beyond that, you certainly can reach out and contact us and we can talk about those one on one options and the other things that we have available.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, definitely check her out because again, it's dipping your toe in, it's getting educated. It's how do I know what I don't know? This is how you start knowing what you don't know. You know where to find me, lauracheadle.com. Download your betrayal recovery toolkit. Oh my gosh, I've got a new one that is about to be launched. It's a great toolkit at betrayalrecoveryguide.com. Have an amazing week. And as usual, always remember to flaunt exactly who you are, because who you are is always more than enough.